$10,000 often feels like a modest number in an economic system dominated by headlines about billionaires and trillion-dollar valuations. But quietly, beneath the surface of the system, this specific threshold shifts the way the economy interacts with you, in small, almost invisible ways that create compounding life advantages over time. To see exactly how this works, we can look at this diagram tracking two individuals. Subject A and Subject B live in the same city. They earn the same exact salary, and they face the exact same cost of living. They are a perfectly controlled A-B test. There is only one variable separating them. Subject A operates with a bank balance hovering near zero, while Subject B maintains a permanent, untouched cash buffer of $10,000. From the outside, you couldn't tell them apart. They buy the exact same coffee, they rent identical apartments, and commute on the same train. But the hidden economic mechanics guiding their respective lives are operating on completely different rule sets. One is operating under constant constraint, while the other is operating with optionality. We need to look at why that specific financial buffer dictates entirely different outcomes for two otherwise identical lives. The first rule set involves human psychology. Operating close to a zero balance induces a state of scarcity. Research consistently shows that financial stress forces the human brain into short-term optimization. The mind narrows its focus to immediate survival needs, minimizing immediate risk to get through the week, which leaves no processing power for long-term strategy. This diagram visualizes that cognitive divide. Subject A's mental bandwidth is squeezed by the bottleneck of scarcity. Subject B experiences cognitive relief. With a reserve in the bank, survival pressure loosens, and the mental bandwidth expands into a wider path, freeing up resources to plan, evaluate options, and resist impulsive decisions. In the real world, this means Subject A accepts unfavorable terms, like high-fee loans or bad employment contracts, simply to maintain stability today. Subject B, possessing the bandwidth to compare and wait, bypasses those traps and holds out for peak efficiency and better terms. At this level, $10,000 functions as cognitive capital, dictating the quality of daily decision-making by allowing for long-term evaluation rather than urgent reaction. Then we hit the mathematics. Let's introduce an identical sudden disruption to both timelines, a $1,500 emergency, like a burst pipe or a critical car repair. Look at this line chart tracking Subject A. Without cash to absorb the shock, they drop the expense on a high-interest credit card. This triggers negative compounding, where the interest begins charging its own interest, multiplying the original $1,500 cost over time, represented by this aggressive upward curve. Now we add Subject B. They use a portion of their buffer to pay in cash. The line dips slightly, but immediately flatlines. They bypass the credit trap completely and remain disconnected from the rising exponential cost. Avoiding a 20 to 30% annual interest rate penalty is mathematically identical to earning a 30% risk-free return on an investment. As these avoided losses accumulate, they create a sharp divergence in wealth. Subject B successfully builds wealth simply by possessing enough capital to not lose it to systemic traps. Beyond internal psychology and personal math, there is external, systemic evaluation. Financial institutions, lenders, and algorithms interpret your liquidity as a direct signal of your reliability, and they route you accordingly. This diagram illustrates the system's reaction to Subject A. Recognizing a lack of capital, the system implements rigid constraints. It flashes red, throwing up high-friction barriers, late fees, and strict lending rules. For Subject B, the evaluation triggers the opposite response. The nodes flash green, opening up lower friction, greater negotiation leverage, and access to exclusive opportunities purely because they demonstrated the ability to hold capital. The financial system actively cooperates with those who hold a reserve, while actively penalizing those who operate without one. The financial system does not suddenly hand you explicit rewards the moment your bank account hits 5 figures. Instead, it simply stops penalizing you. For Subject A, a disruption triggers a penalty and reduced stability, trapping them in a downward spiral. Subject B enters a positive loop. Disruptions are absorbed with zero penalties, preserving stability and reinforcing the advantage outward over time. Long-term financial progress is nonlinear. The key to early wealth isn't finding a way to maximize outsized investment gains. It is successfully plugging the systemic economic leaks that drain your resources. Reaching this threshold triggers a final, internal change. Holding a consistent reserve alters how an individual perceives risk and time. The environment finally supports long-term planning, removing the terror of immediate financial ruin. With this reserve, you can reject a toxic job, wait for a better price, or learn a highly valuable skill that will increase your earning potential years down the line. Reaching $10,000 marks the entry point into an entirely different set of rules for navigating life, where the environment shifts from one of survival to one of possibility. The significance of this threshold rests in the foundation it builds, a space where every decision can finally be guided by strategy rather than necessity.